You are listening to the Two and Out CFL podcast, a proud member of the Canadian Football Podcast Network.
You're going to see your one guy, you're like, dang, he ran that all the way, sprinted, okay, I see you. But then you'll see the other guy and be like, 5 steps up, got to take a break.
Well, that's us.
Going to go. But, yeah.
I can't even make it up 3 steps in my condo without having to take a break.
Grab some poutine and a double-double. It's time for the Two and Out CFL podcast.
Now they have to kick it out. And they do!
Every week, Travis Currah.
Does anybody still care about this podcast?
And Brazilian Ty.
Hunters are people, too.
Talk fantasy football, bring you the latest in CFL news, and sprinkle in a little bit of nonsense.
Are you kidding? This is unbelievable!
Ready, set, hunt!
And we are part of the Alberta Podcast Network, powered by ATB. Oh, we got a fun episode today. We're going to be hearing from Oz Davis from Rouge, White and Blue. He's also got a new podcast project called Truly the Goats. We'll be talking to him. We'll also be talking to Justin Renfrow, one of the newest signings of the Edmonton Eskimos. Spent time with the Stampeders and last season played about half of the year with the BC Lions. Ty, I want to bring this up with you. You've been watching Price is Right on the daily, and it's getting a bit awkward.
Awkward, yes, that'd be a good word to use. I didn't watch today, but I did see it on Twitter. They gave away a trip on a show. I don't know if it was a showcase or if it was just the front row contestant stuff to Game 4 of the Stanley Cup Finals this year.
Oh,
I know it's taped, but it's still a tough look. And I roared.
So get this. Every December, my radio station gives away beat the box office tickets to every concert for the following year to somebody. Mm-hmm. This person is a diehard listener of the station, been trying to win it for 7 years. This is the year they won it.
You guys have to, you can't just say too bad. You have to let them do it next year.
That's above my pay grade, but we'll see if we can help them out in the coming years. Oh. But that is a tough break.
That's a tough one.
Before we get to the news, got to let you know that this episode of Two and Out is brought to you by Back to School Again, a podcast about midlife learners. The next season dives into the power of online learning. Let's take a listen.
Hi, I'm Katrina Ingram. I'm working on a special 3-part miniseries of the Back to School Again podcast in partnership with Athabasca University, which highlights the power of online learning. We'll talk about how the internet has transformed education, the role of microlearning and micro-credentialing, and an exciting new offering called PowerEd. I've just completed the PowerEd course, Machine Learning for Competitive Advantage, and I'll share some of the cool things I've learned about how artificial intelligence is shaping our world and how to apply machine learning to solve business problems. The series launches in April, but you can subscribe now at backtoschoolagain.ca. Hope you'll join us.
Find Back to School Again on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. You can also find it at backtoschoolagain.ca. That's backtoschoolagain.ca.
In the Huddle with Currah and Ty on the Two and Out podcast.
All right, there's not really much going on. We know that, but in the last week we did learn that the XFL has gone bankrupt. No plans to return in 2021, and apparently it's up for sale. I don't know if they're going to have any luck selling it, but we have heard that Armani Edwards has signed with the Edmonton Eskimos. SJ Green and Derek Dennis are still out there. I don't know how many more signings we can expect, but I actually did think the XFL had something there. It looks like they were prepared to lose money for the next 3 or 4 years, but the world is just changing, man. It's crazy.
Oh, and I think they were prepared to lose money, but at the same time, there was a plan in place where they would only lose so much, and this just changes everything. And, Vince McMahon didn't get to where he is by making terrible business decisions.
Yeah.
Except for the original XFL. But, it's just, I'm not gonna cheer because it failed. I mean, it was. I watched a little bit of it. It's hard. Like the market's already so saturated. I don't know if I want football all year long. Like that gets to be a little much. But I don't think that it was going to fail as quickly as it did. I don't know if it was going to fail or not, but I saw it at least, going a year or two because of the deep pockets. But the whole pandemic thing really throws a wrench into things. And as for Armani Edwards signing with the Eskimos, is it this year that teams are only allowed to dress 2 quarterbacks?
Yeah, they were going to put that into this season, yeah.
So there you go. Armani Edwards is the de facto third-string quarterback in Edmonton.
Yeah, that's pretty smart there. And I think it's a testament to the CFL, the fact that it's been able to last this long. And there are sort of rumblings that the college football season next year in the States could be in the spring. So if that happens, the XFL would just have no chance to compete with that.
We saw that with the American expansion where, they had TV contracts and stuff up until college football started, and then they were out. You're not going up against another league. You're not going up against a sport. You're going up against a way of life at that point down in the States. NCAA just trumps everything else, it seems.
NFL running back Brandon Oliver has signed with the Hamilton Tiger Cats, and Liram Hajrullahu signed with the LA Rams. It should be pretty fun to see how NFL announcers get used to pronouncing his name.
Poor Joe Buck. Yeah. He goes from having to say "Aha, Clinton Dix" every week because it seems that the Packers always played a Joe Buck game, and now he's got to go. He goes from that to Hajrullahu. And I mean, it'll be a little better than him having people send him sex tapes to do play-by-play on.
We now know that the CFL season won't start until at least July. Many cities canceling all public gatherings until the end of June. Quebec has canceled gatherings through the end of August. I think Labor Day might be the optimistic one here. And what I'm kind of worried about, Ty, is guys like John Bowman. He said he will have played his last game in the CFL if there's no season in 2020. And I'm kind of wondering if that's going to be the case for a few vets in the CFL.
Yeah, it takes a toll on your body. So for them even to think about playing another year, it takes a lot. But once you get away from it and, you're not getting beat up every day and, you're not in football shape per se to come back, especially, I don't want to call John Bowman old, but he is older than your average CFL player. For them to get back into shape and start taking bumps again, that'd be a huge task to undertake. And it just makes sense that if there is no football this year, that these guys don't come back because they will be that much further behind.
If you are missing football right now, TSN is playing classic CFL games every Friday. Stamps fans should probably look away because this week is Ricky Ray week, and the 100th Grey Cup will be playing, followed by the 105th Grey Cup. I'm sure painful memories for Calgary fans.
I can't wait for Friday now. I'm so excited.
Let's bring a former Calgary Stampeder, current Edmonton Eskimo offensive lineman Justin Renfrow to the show. Are you back home? Because 403 is a Calgary number.
Yeah, so I usually stay year-round. So literally when COVID hit, I actually had come home for my mom's 60th birthday.
Oh, wow.
And then her party got canceled because that was the Saturday, basically, the world shut down.
Right.
So her party got canceled. We were able to get a last-ditch go-out dinner, and then the world shut down on Sunday. And so...
Man, it's been a wild, I guess, almost a month now, somewhere around a month.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
you've got a cool initiative going on right now. But before we get to that, and I want to rewind a little bit, if that's cool, about your time before the CFL.
Okay, yeah.
You're born in Philly. I got to ask some advice. If we ever get down there, where should our first stop be for Philly cheesesteak?
Okay, so you can go take a picture in front of Pat's and Gino, so you could tell everybody you saw it. You saw the two lines, but you need to go to West Philly, hit Jim, and you need to go right by my high school, the William Penn Charter School. They're actually right across the street from each other, D'Alessandro's and Chubby's. D'Alessandro's doesn't do French fries. They just do steaks and the chips, and then Chubby's does the steaks with the fries. And what I always do, I always tell people to go eat half from each. And I always chose Chubby's because they had the fries.
Okay, yeah.
where you got a lot of your older folks like my pops. My pops will tell you D'Alessandro's, get you some good Hers chips with it. But I like Chubby's, fried onion, mushrooms with the ketchup and mayo and the fries.
Yeah, clearly you're an expert in this category.
Yeah, that's everybody's question whenever they're coming to Philly, so I always have that ready. And my dad actually opened a cheesesteak shop in Virginia. Yeah.
Philly has a certain, I don't know what the word would be, a certain way that, especially the sports fans in that city act.
I mean, they get the rep. There's the rep there, but I mean, evil and all that. But you got to look at those years. I feel like when you look at now, like it's a blue collar team from a blue collar city, you know, and everybody's hardworking, and most people are passionate. Like you'll get your mix of random Cowboys fans that live up here and whatnot, but for the majority of the city, everybody's Eagles fans, been it for their whole life. So for me, especially when they just won, it was great because I also had some college teammates and friends on that Eagles team. So to be able to see them kind of bring it home with guys I went to school with was pretty good. Like Chris Long, Rodney McLeod, some guys I went to Virginia with. So it's a good city. Even talking to Alex Singleton, who's now here, we played together in Calgary. He loves being in Philly. So I think once if you keep the fans happy and you win games, they're probably the best. I would think they're probably some of the best in the world and definitely some of the most passionate.
With the rep that Philly does have being blue collar and just the way that it's portrayed on TV when we do watch sports and stuff that happens there, do people that live in Philly and are from Philly, grew up there, do they hate the tourists that run up the steps and pretend that they're Rocky?
No, I think it's, for me especially, because I live in the suburbs, but I had to drive the hour to middle school and high school down there, and kind of, I think it's always funny to see, and and now like I've gone to different places and people send me their pictures when they go. I think it's entertaining, especially when you see the people who have to take the break and stuff. That's the best part. Because when you're driving, like if you're driving to get on 76, or you're going to go get on the, if you're going to go head from downtown from the other side of the city, you ride past there. So sometimes you could get caught at that light that's right there, and you might be sitting there for 5 minutes, and especially on a nice summer day, you're gonna see your one guy. You're like, dang, he ran that all the way, sprinted. Okay, I see you. But then you'll see the other guy be like, 5 steps up, got to take a break.
Well, that's us.
Gonna go. But
yeah.
So.
I can't even make it up 3 steps in my condo without having to take a break.
Yeah. So yeah, it's always fun.
You mentioned the Eagles. You were a big fan growing up, I assume.
Yep. Me and my parents, the last time they made the Super Bowl run, we went to the home game, and we even went to the NFC Championship in St. Louis. So
nice.
I have those pictures still hanging up downstairs of all 3 of us outside of the NFC Championship. And my dad actually pointed it out. He's like, when I played on the Seahawks and we went to the Super Bowl, he was like, the last time we were at a Super Bowl in the NFC Championship was when we went to watch the Eagles. Now we watching you. So it's pretty cool to kind of see all that stuff come full circle in life, you know?
Was there a player on those teams when you were younger, or was it somebody in your family who inspired you to get into football, or did it just seem like a natural fit?
Well, the area, the suburb I moved to once I got to kindergarten is the Yardley-Marshville area, and Troy Vincent is actually from this area and then lived there. So he was a famous defensive back. I'm sure all of you have heard of him. And so his kids were a couple grades behind me as well. And so, you know, I always rooted for him. And then Brian Dawkins, I don't know why. I love Brian Dawkins. And then also, like, I wasn't even an O lineman at that point, but man, Trey Thomas, I would always be like, I'm gonna look big like him when I'm on the field, and that's what I would always tell my dad. And I think I'm getting close to that. I got the dark visor, I got the arm brace going, so yeah, it's pretty. It was a lot of talent though going through there, and you know, as I got older, you know, being on the Cardinals, got to meet Donovan McNabb and see guys like that. So yeah, it's definitely a lot of good names coming through Philly.
You went to the second best university in Florida.
It depends on the year, I guess. I'll give you that. It depends on the year.
Okay, that's fair. And you mentioned that you weren't even playing O-line yet at one point. Like, when did you finally settle in as an offensive lineman, or decide that that's where you wanted to be, or was it coaching that kind of moved you there?
Well, I never got the decision. The Seahawks I came in, I actually tell people this story all the time. I thought I was cut.
Oh, wow.
I was a D lineman. And, you know, I came in the next day, I believe. So when you're defense, you have white jerseys. And then when you're offense, you have blue jerseys. So I had a white jersey for the first probably 2 weeks. And then right before the Super Bowl, they're like, in preparation for next year, we're going to make a move. Obviously, once I went upstairs, but when I walked into the locker room, all of a sudden, middle of NFC Championship week, I have a blue jersey now.
Whoa!
And then they go, "Can you come upstairs with us? But you can leave your iPad." And when he told me to leave my iPad, I was like, "Okay." So now this is getting even weirder. No, I'm not getting cut because they told me to leave the iPad, and I think that was he could see the nervousness on my face. So he told me to leave my iPad, and then I went up, and Tom Cable at the time was the O-line coach. He said, "You make plays on defense, but you could be special at O-line." And that was pretty much how it went.
Okay.
I was the O-lineman, and from there I bounced around a little bit because I was learning on the fly, you know. I'm trying to block, like, my first reps as a O-lineman were against Julius Peppers, Clay Matthews, and Bruce Irving. Like, those were the three between the Packers and Seahawks. My first 3 weeks of reps were against those three. And I remember Bruce Irving just taking off a couple times. I didn't even know how to kick set. And so I said, I'm going to just run and get it. And the coach was like, "Man, I've never seen anybody do that, but you blocked them." And they were like, "We can work with you if you can do that." And so it kind of grew from there. And then I think I finally settled in as an O-lineman, though, in Calgary, learning under Pat for a full year. Like, I cleaned up on a lot of just inexperienced stuff. I hadn't been in those situations. I mean, I literally have played defensive line, tight end, or wide receiver my whole life.
What did you know about the CFL before you got to Calgary?
Honestly, I knew a good deal because of Dontrell Inman. He's a close friend of mine.
Oh, cool.
And then also, unfortunately, Mylan Hicks. He was my roommate. He's passed away, obviously, but he was my roommate for the 49ers. So we spent a whole spring and a whole summer together, and then we played in the developmental league in New York together. And then I got picked up. That's after playing there, I got picked up and did my kind of tour with Dallas and the Bills, and he came up to Calgary. So we were staying in communication. I actually talked to him the week before everything happened on his end, and his death. I had actually just talked to him, and I was making plans to try to come see him during, we had some off time coming in the NFL. And then, things took their turns. I ended up, and it's like crazy how life works, but, I talked to him that week. I literally talked to him the day before I tore my foot on the Bills. And then that kind of ended my NFL career. And the first team to call was Calgary, and for me, that's what made me decide to go there. Because I was at a point where, am I gonna play? Am I gonna keep chasing this? And then, literally before my last game, the last person I talked to, his team comes calling for me, and so I took that as a sign, and kind of ran with it from there.
I think hearing you talk, it just shows that the football world is kind of a small world. And I know that Calgary traded you to BC last year, but what did that time there do for your career? Because it seems like players just love it there. And I can see why. They're always a good team, but what is it about Calgary and that organization? And this is I tell people this a lot. The only other place I've been that's felt like that so far has been Seattle. And it's when you're a championship team and a championship program, you're brothers. And you're every sense of that. In Calgary, like, we do things together. And that's what I've noticed in other teams. But we haven't been together in Edmonton, and stepped on the field yet together. But, I talked to Trevor, I talked to Shaq. And I'm kind of seeing that brotherhood with some guys I'm going to be on the offense with, hopefully sooner rather than later with all this COVID stuff. But, yeah, that's a big thing in Calgary is being brothers, and it's actually a family. And then, they try to help you out and everything. Like, I volunteered coach. I helped coach Dave Dickinson's son's team sometimes during the week. Cool.
Along with the other team I coach, O-line coach Pat Delmonico, he has us over his house for meals. And him and his wife make great Italian meals for us.
Nice.
And, things like that you can't replace. And especially like a guy like me, I'm all the way from the East Coast. And, you get your parents get to come see you, but every day I'm with these people, and, to walk in and, feel loved and feel like somebody cares for you, it goes a long way. And, I feel like that's what shows on the field. Like, honestly, when I was in Calgary, I would run through a big brick wall for that coaching staff, because they've done things and put themselves out on the line for me. And so I think you see that on the field, and especially when you've been around like this, I'm going into my 7th year pro. When you've been around a lot of teams and a lot of organizations, you can see the specialness, and that's definitely there. And it's a great city too. I still talk to a lot of people from the city. I got to know a lot of people through my community service, so helping out all those different organizations. Like, I was talking to some of the kids I used to coach, just telling them, hey, hope you're staying safe, making sure they're being smart, and, just building those relationships. Like, every time I go to Calgary, I got these handful of people to go see. Even this year, between going back for the Grey Cup and then going back around Christmas time, every day, I'm just going to the grocery store and people coming up to me. I literally had somebody come up to me every day I went out somewhere, and he's like, wow, Justin Renfrow, we miss you. Thank you for everything you did. Blah, blah, blah. We didn't get to see you before you left. And so to go back at the end of the whole season and people still remember, oh, you got traded, but we miss you, it says a lot. So I think that can't be replaced in the actual football program and then off the field as well.
You said you're going into your 7th year pro, and I've talked to players before. They take certain things seriously that I think some people might laugh at, like the jersey number and things like that. I noticed that the CFL website has you listed at 6'4", and Wikipedia has you at 6'6".
Yeah.
What are you at? Because I think I've seen you at the Grey Cup. I'd say you're closer to 6'6".
Yeah, me and my mom were just actually talking about this because the downstairs, I actually just knocked the light bulb out in the kitchen because I hit my head on the kitchen light. And I was like, she was like, "Oh, you must have grew a little bit." So I was like, maybe. But yeah, I've always said I was 6'5", and with my cleats on, I'm 6'6". And
okay.
I think that's where the fluctuations come from. But I also got those official NFL pro day numbers where they try to smush your neck in too. So,
they do.
Yeah, that pro day kind of testing and all that, man. That's a sight to see. If you guys can get to a college and see that one time, you'd be like, wow, I thought they just came and ran 40s and benched.
Well, I think we'll tell Eskimo fans that you're 6'7", and I think they'll be excited for when you get to suit up wearing green and gold. A month from about almost today, training camp was supposed to start. Doesn't look like we're going to have games until late in the summer at the earliest. How has the pandemic changed your regimen to get ready for the season?
Shoot, man, it's definitely been a pretty big adjustment. Coming home, so I had the plan to be I was supposed to be back in Edmonton 2 weeks ago.
Oh, okay,
and I always like to be around my team, the coaches, the city. And so I was planning to be there. I was working out with Brad at each gym that's out there. I got a week or two in with him, and and I was working with the training staff, kind of just getting everything ready for the season. So it went from kind of boom, my off season's laid out, gonna get some community stuff going, try to help some kids in Edmonton as well. I'm trying to launch a program with the juvenile detention center there as well. So I was kind of had everything planned out to, hey, work out, get your stuff going, be ready for the season, be comfortable. So now I came home, and then it was like, okay, we're home. We might be home for a little bit, but I'll just work out at my home gym to then everything shut down. So I actually I reached out to, it's R3 Bar is the company, and they've made a bar that has bands connected to it. And so I kind of used that as my coping mechanism, if you could say, to cope with this COVID, and kind of use that to get out of the house is one thing, get some fresh air. So I've been doing all my lifts using that, but also just trying to keep myself and try to keep most of the muscle and stay in shape, But lucky for me, my middle school is right down the street. Football field the lines are, because they use that lime dye lining stuff still. It's not a turf field, so that stuff's burnt in the grass, so I can still get my yard markers in. And so I got have between Brad at Eats and then my home gym of Test football. They've been giving me running and lifting workouts and kind of how to adjust them using bands in this bar. And I feel like I'm keeping pretty good on top of it, I know my running's definitely not slacking because I still got a 100-yard football field to run on. Yeah. It's just might be missing a little bit strength-wise, but we'll get time to get that done. So it's an adjustment, but it still can be done. And it's really I think it's just another thing that will separate the people who really want it versus the people who don't. And that's how I always look at things. It's just another obstacle to get to your goal, nothing else.
One of the reasons that we wanted to talk to you this week is because of a cool initiative that you're part of right now. First, what inspired you to get your nonprofit organization, JR Football, started?
Well, that's again speaking on the city of Calgary, and I started out there. I just had extra time and wanted to wanted to help out, and I got the chance to coach the Calgary Bantam Stampeders, which is the younger team in the CBFA.
Cool.
And so I coached them, and from there started helping out a few guys on the team, giving people rides. We ended up that year, which was great for I guess our city. Obviously we won the Grey Cup, but then the team I was coaching also won the provincial championship.
Nice.
So it was from there, kind of other organizations started saying, hey, would you mind helping our kids? Because I guess kids from the football team had started talking to their schools and telling them about their coach from the Stampeders, and schools started reaching out to me, Big Brothers, Big Sisters, Boys and Girls Clubs, Special Olympics Alberta. And pretty much everybody who comes and asks me to do something, if it's to help some kids, I just pretty much say yes. If I can make it and we don't have practice or a game, I'm pretty much there. And so it really started out as me just trying to see if I wanted to be a coach. That's honestly why I was doing it. I was seeing, hey, do you really want to coach when you're done? Like, put in these hours and all that. So it started out as that, and then I just started helping people. And so it's just been it's something that was instilled in me from my parents, and then also the private school I went to, where we had to, every Friday we went and volunteered at an old folks home. And then that grew into college. In the summers I would coach camps, and then I actually took on a mission with my college church group. It's the FCA through a football team, where we actually go to a camp with kids who have AIDS, and we just play with them. And
awesome.
For me, that stuck with me forever, because to have a little kid tell me I'm the first person at 8 years old outside their parents to play with them, that was crazy. So, that's kind of stuck with me, and just people see me and get such a smile and think it's the greatest thing, and I'm like, hey, I'm just like you, but if that helps their day, it helps their day. But I go sit with people and we talk about Xbox and everything else, just like I'm a normal person. So I just feel like me just being a person and giving my time is the least I could do for everything I've been blessed with in my life. So
I know there are a few frontline heroes that listen to this show, and there are even more people that know people working on the front line. Talk about...
just send them our way.
Yeah, talk about this cool initiative you have going on to show these people a token of appreciation.
I've partnered with OKE. They're a boxer company. And, people on the front lines right now, we know they're working the crazy hours.
Yeah, they're stretched pretty thin. Yeah.
They're shredded. So they came up with the good idea to get these people, nominated people, and they're going to give away some boxers. And I was like, okay, you guys do that. And then I hopped on. I said, I'll get some JR masks, because they need masks too.
Yeah.
There's a shortage in masks. So I added the mask, and then my local pizza place actually saw the initiative, and now for the nominee, I guess, for this area, they've added on a $25 gift certificate to the pizza shop.
Cool.
So it's just, these people are out here doing their service. I mean, everybody's like they signed up for this, but they're still risking their life every day. So just the way to show some appreciation, and also to try to keep them safe while they're serving all of us, just trying to get people nominated. But also the biggest thing for me, I think, in this is I want people to tag me, tag OKE Apparel, and let us know. I want to know. And then we had a couple people, and I went to their profiles, found pictures of them working, and I put them on my Instagram story. And I want people to know who the different people are that are helping us. I had a young man, I believe his name was Michael. He just graduated from UBC Medical School, I think, last year. Now he's already on the East Coast, helping people in the front lines of this disease right now. So, stories like that, basically think about me. I thought of it in the football terms. I'm like, that's basically like me. I graduated college, and then my rookie year, I'm in a Super Bowl. So he's in his
Right.
Super Bowl already.
Right.
So those are the type of people I just want to hear about. Those people, and I want other people to hear about them, and be appreciative of who's out there risking their lives, and that's pretty much what it is. And it's all we're asking is, hey, just put a couple ats and write us and tell us about somebody nothing more. All of us are stuck in the house all day, so it doesn't take too much more than that.
So is the best way to connect with you on Instagram then for this, and maybe just for anything else?
Yes, Instagram, j.renfrow. And then also for all this, though, that's my personal one. But for all this, at jrfootball_, and that's where we prefer, and oke.apparel. Tag both of us and let us know who your hero is. Story, you could post it. You could post it on your feed. You could post it in a story, anywhere. Just kind of let us know who you think's a frontline hero, who deserves some boxers and some masks. And I don't know how many people we're picking, but we're going to pick a good amount and kind of just say thank you to people all over the U.S. and Canada, too. I should have added that. We're looking for Canadians and Americans. So, it's just trying to say thank you in a special way, pretty much is all it boils down to.
Well, thanks so much for taking the time to come on the show and talk to us. You did mention Xbox. Is there an Xbox gamer tag? What are you playing?
Right now, I've been, it just got done. I've really been playing heavy NBA 2K with my son.
Cool.
So, we built him a My Player and all that. So we're doing the My Player neighborhood heavy right now, and then also Madden, and then that Call of Duty Warzone came out. I've been hopping on with a lot of my college buddies on there.
Yeah.
But if anybody wants to add, I'm down to play with anybody. It's Rockstar Rennie 54, and that's Rockstar, and then Rennie is RENNY 54. So, if anybody wants to hop on Xbox, or I believe Warzone is cross-platform, so
cool.
Any platform you're on, if you want to play, let me know.
Awesome.
And you could also DM me on Instagram, and I'm around at least an hour every day. I try to get on. Me and my son at least get on and play in the neighborhood. So,
Awesome. Hey, thanks for talking to us, and we hope to see you on the field soon, okay?
All right, thanks for having me, and I hope we can all get back out there and playing football soon.
Thank you so much to Justin for coming onto the show. He's just such a great guy. A lot of cool things going on. I really hope that things get figured out sooner rather than later, because he's a good guy to have in our communities and football teams here in Canada, Ty.
And, we always talk about how, especially in the CFL, players always seem to be a huge part of the community, and that was just further proof of that. In Calgary especially, he's basically coaching, 8 different teams, and
that's cool.
Helping out every kid that asks, and it's just nuts the amount of work that these guys do, not only on the field, but just off the field inside the community.
Before we talk to Oz Davis, got to talk about Pod Power. And with Pod Power, ATB is making it possible for us to amplify the voices of Albertans and Alberta podcasters. This episode, we're giving a Pod Power shout out to Book Women. It is a podcast about editing, publishing, and writing Indigenous stories. Hosts Tanya Ball, Sheila LaRocque, and Kayla Larson are 3 Métis librarians representing nations from across the homeland. Now they have banded together to chat books, culture, and anything else that comes up. Book Women was recently added to Cowboy and Indians podcast incubator program for emerging voices that contribute positively to the Indigenous podcasting space. You can listen and find out more at bookwomenpodcast.ca. That is bookwomenpodcast.ca. Joining the show now is Oz Davis from the Rouge, White, and Blue podcast, but he also has a new project on the go. Truly the GOATs, a sports history podcast talking about, what it is, the greatest of all time. Oz, just give us the rundown on how this whole project came to be, because I love the idea.
Well, in a lot of ways for me, this is kind of the culmination of, my entire adult professional life, not to be too hoity-toity about it. I'm one of those overeducated folks of Generation X, so I have a master's degree. I've got a lot of philosophy. I've got a lot of history. I've got a lot of literature and whatnot. And, so now I guess maybe because I'm getting old, I'm aging a bit. But this has been a personal joke of mine for a good 10, 15 years. I first started this project directly about 10 or 12 years ago.
Wow.
And but it occurred to me, and again, this is just funny to me, so I don't mind if you guys don't find it funny. Almost nobody does. But I'd be watching a Yankees game, and they'd be talking about, here's Mariano Rivera on the mound, right? He's the greatest left-handed relief pitcher in the postseason of all time.
We're getting pretty specific here.
Yeah, and I sit there and I'd go, well, I don't know. In the Roman Empire, they had some great, fastballers back then. It's just like for example, okay, let me give you a more immediate example. Just today, I'm looking at this, I'm noodling around on the CFL website, right? I see this piece called TSN to Air Slate of Classic CFL Games. Great. They've been doing this on ESPN lately. I've been seeing like Bird versus Magic games, stuff like this, right? Okay, I scrolled down the list. The oldest game is like 2007. It's like I was expecting to see, some Angelo Mosca games. I want to see the Log Bowl. I want to see the Ice Bowl and stuff. So 2007 passes for classic now, all-time great. And I mean, on the one hand, one of the things is hyperbole, this clickbait mentality, this I got to be the first to tweet this mentality does is it obfuscates the really great moments, right? Like 13th Man.
I know what you're saying.
You might not agree, Travis.
Yeah.
But
neither of us do.
Yeah.
Right? That's a classic. That's
it is.
An instant classic, right? But through all the noise when every year you got to call it a classic, or like Henry Burris, the comeback against Calgary in the Grey Cup. That's a classic all-time game.
Yeah.
Even Argonauts upsetting Calgary. That's one of the all-time upsets in Grey Cup history, right? But since we say it every year, since we say it about every game, it loses its meaning. And I just wanted to go back and really redefine all-time great athlete. We're going back on this show. We've already done a show about gladiators.
Wow.
Where I'm trying to get one in the can about. Yeah. A lot of the CFL guys are interested in that particular one for some reason. I'm trying to get one done about sumo wrestling.
Nice.
Because just recently there comes a guy who's being called the GOAT, but with something like sumo, you can make that claim a lot more easily because A, they don't throw it around like we do in North America, that term, right? And B, because they have a historical record going back something like 600 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
We can say here are the stats. And they've kept stats. They have the weights, they have win-loss, they have, there's only like 2 to 4 tournaments a year.
Right.
Right. So, and this is going back to the samurai period of history, right? So, and that's another part of it too, is that we've played games forever. They were playing in human society. We tend to think about the Olympics and the gladiator games and the chariot racing and whatnot. But, the Aztecs were playing ball in year 1000, over there. Yeah. We've had jousting games in the medieval period. I mean, just because the 20th, 21st century is the golden age of sports, doesn't mean that there weren't great sports in other time periods. And so we talk about stuff like that. Now, We've got a few episodes in the can. Of course, we do a lot of, like I say, the 20th, 21st century is really the golden age of sports, really, worldwide. We play now more sports, and there's more emphasis on sports in the world than ever before, I think. Organized sports, that is. And so we've already got one in the can about Jim Thorpe. That was the first episode. The class for anybody who knows sports history. Of course, the classic 20th century athlete, famous for winning the pentathlon and the decathlon at the same Olympic Games. Wow. Was also a professional baseball player and a professional football player / commissioner in the very
in
the very first year of the NFL, 1920. So, and I was actually kind of heartbroken. I don't know if anybody out there saw that, but the NFL did the 100 greatest for 100 years. They had a whole mini series about that, and Jim Thorpe did not make that team, and I can't tell you how heartbroken and how disappointed I was. Everybody was railing about Terrell Owens being omitted, and I'm talking about this guy from 1920. I was really heartbroken about that because really Jim Thorpe is in our midst. I mean, I can't say in our lifetime, but within, record, right? Truly one of the GOATs. And we forget. I'm really sad that history goes by the wayside. And, of course, I talked about the Gladiator episode. And, of course, episode 3 was on the CFL's own Angelo Mosca. And we have as guest star on those episodes a guy called Travis Currah.
You know what?
You use the term star loosely.
So I had to reread before I came on that episode the Angelo Mosca book, Tell It to My Face, and it was so fun to revisit that. And he played in it was 10 or 11 Grey Cups, and I don't know if that will ever happen again. So you're right. When people, they use the term GOAT, and they'll almost use it for, I almost want to say, you brought up Mariano Rivera. They'll use it for a guy like Aaron Judge, who has only been in the league for a few years. So I get what you're saying, but Angelo Mosca, that cannot be overused. He truly is one of the GOATs, and that was so fun to revisit.
Yeah, well, of course, he made the TSN, top 50 of all time?
Yeah.
He did that in the early 2000s. And then, he is, of course, in the Canadian Hall of Fame. Of course, he's the second Hamilton Tiger Cat ever to have his number retired. And but, one of the great things about doing this kind of thing is you learn about the history. You learn about because one of the missions of Truly the GOATs will also to be discuss the culture surrounding these games. I mean, when you hear the Gladiator episode, you'll know about the lifestyle of the Gladiator.
Right.
You'll learn about that, and it's not quite what you think. You would be surprised. I was very surprised, and that was the thing about Angelo is not only, is he so consistently in these Grey Cup games. He's in some of the weird ones.
Yeah, he is
the great ones. And of course, for Angelo, the thing that really got me and the thing that convinced my producer, because he was kind of on the fence about that particular episode, was that, thanks to his wrestling career, I mean, this guy goes down as, in my opinion, the greatest heel of all time.
He was an innovator.
He was the guy who had haters before we used that term, hater, right? Into sports.
Yeah, absolutely. And he kind of used the wrestling career to better his football career, and I think vice versa. And it was such a fascinating look back at him, and I think the idea of the podcast overall is pretty fascinating. I feel like if you had the budget, you would go and look for ancient, hieroglyphics and look at these sports. You're like the Indiana Jones of sports podcasts or something.
Yeah, it belongs in a museum.
I just watched Indiana Jones Part 3 last. I just watched that. Yeah, it's on the air. Because I'm also doing movie podcasts too, right? So I'm up to date on that. The Rouge, White, and Blue is kind of in hibernation because of this whole thing.
Yeah.
In any case, episode 4 and maybe 4B of the Truly the GOATs will be out fairly soon. We're on most podcast aggregators, not all of them, but most of the major ones. And episode 4 is about Babe Didrikson. Do you know Babe Didrikson, you guys?
I got to be honest, no.
No.
Wow. Quite possibly the greatest female athlete of all time.
Okay.
Quite possibly. And played in the 20th century. And one of the interesting things, I'll give you a little spoiler here, one of the interesting things I learned in this is until about the 2000s, really the golden age for women's sports is about the 30s and 40s.
Oh, wow, yeah.
I mean, this is also in addition to the golfing opportunities and the AAU opportunities, which the NCAA swamped, and plus women got to go to college after World War II. You also had, the All-American Professional Girls Baseball League and women's pro basketball leagues and lots of barnstorming teams and stuff like that. So it was actually until for a good 60, 70 years, women did not have the same opportunities in sports as they did in Babe Didrikson's time. So it's an interesting story. The nice thing about that one is her autobiography is public domain. So we paid a voiceover actress to enact parts of her autobiography as part of the podcast. That one's a nice one. And it's a lot of work, so I'm still plowing through it.
Look for Truly the Goats on all major podcast platforms. Oz, you gave me a heads up on this. Ty has no idea. You said you had a question you've been waiting to ask him for a long time.
Oh, dear God.
Got a question for you. Yeah. Okay. So, of course, last season, the Ottawa Red Blacks had the season from hell, after being one of the all-time most successful CFL franchises, right?
Henry Burris turned them around and then left, so.
Right. So now I think we can agree that they're kind of, again, back to the second year of their franchise. And so I was wondering if you're willing to put anything on the line against them winning the Grey Cup this season.
You want me to bet against Nick Arbuckle winning a Grey Cup? I'll take that bet all day. I'll take it every day of the week and twice on Sunday.
Ooh, really? Okay, I'm gonna have to bring.
He got sacked by a pylon.
He sounds
and not
pretty
like
confident.
Sheldon Surrey, like an actual pylon.
I know.
So are you putting a Brazilian on the line right now, April 16th, 2020?
In the last place on earth I want to get this done is Regina. Like, Winnipeg is bad enough. I also feel like another one-way bet is a terrible decision.
Yeah. Hey, that's true.
I gotta tell you, Ty. I don't, as I've just been saying for 20 minutes, I don't like throwing this around, but that was one of the all-time great payouts. That
is a GOAT moment. I agree.
So what you're saying is I'll have my own episode.
Great idea.
Oz, thanks so much for joining us on the show. And everybody go check out Truly the Goats. Thanks, Oz.
Hey, thanks very much. And thanks for keeping your podcast running during these difficult times. You guys are great.
Thanks to Oz Davis and Justin Renfrow for joining the show today. It's Travis Currah, Brazilian Ty, the 2 and Out podcast, a part of the Alberta Podcast Network, powered by ATB. That's it for this week. We keep finding things to fill up a podcast, and we are going to have some content to fill the next show as well, because the CFL draft is a few weeks away, and we will have a draft preview show with John Hodge of 3 Down Nation to get you ready for that. Brazilian Ty, take care of yourself in isolation. You told me before the show that you moved the mattress from your spare room into the living room. I'm pretty sure your corn beard and hair.
If you want to call it that. You know how they say redheads are like a recessive gene, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, my hair is blonde, but my beard is not.
You're just learning this.
Well, I had never grown it out this long. Like, there was patches where it was red,
right.
But I mean, it's not ideal.
All right, buddy. Take care of yourself and you as well. We'll talk to you in a couple weeks. Stay safe.
Thanks for listening. Find more great shows like this at CF Pod Network on Twitter.